Gas stations are some of the loneliest places to be after midnight, and sometimes the people who show up shouldn't be there. Story 1. The neon sign sputtered, "Open 24 hours," against a sky the color of bruised meat. I had taken the night shift at Miller's Pump because the pay was good and the town was small enough that the only traffic after midnight was the occasional trucker or the occasional drunk who thought a windshield wiper fluid dispenser was a bar. I liked the isolation. It gave me a chance to think, to listen to the hum of the refrigerators, to hear my own heartbeat echo off the concrete. The first hour passed uneventfully. I swept the cracked linoleum, restocked the candy aisle, and made sure the coffee machine was still on, its low-grade brew a lifeline for anyone who cared enough to stay awake. At 2 a.m., the first car rolled in, a rust-caked pickup with a broken taillight flickering like a dying firefly. A man stepped out, his face half hidden beneath a baseball cap turned backward. He shuffled to the pump, his boots splashing in the oil-slicked puddle that never dried. He paid with a crumpled bill and, without looking at me, whispered, "Thanks," before disappearing back into the darkness of the highway. Something about him felt off, like a glitch in a video game, a character rendered with too few polygons. I brushed it aside. I'd seen stranger things. A teenage girl who claimed the mirrors showed her a future she didn't want. A truck driver who drove in circles for hours, never leaving the exit ramp. At 3:17 a.m., a black sedan pulled up, its windows tinted so dark I could see nothing beyond the glass. A woman stepped out, her heels clicking on the concrete with a rhythm that seemed too precise, too deliberate. She stared at the fuel pumps as if they were a gallery of paintings. "Do you have any special gas?" she asked, voice a thin whisper that sounded like wind through a cracked window. "Just regular," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She placed her hand on the pump, and for a moment the lights flickered, casting a strobe of shadows that seemed to crawl along the walls. When the power steadied, the woman was gone. The sedan remained, engine idling, as if waiting for something. The feeling of being watched settled over me like a heavy blanket. I could almost hear breathing behind the rows of snack chips. I turned to the mirrored wall behind the counter, a cheap plastic sheet that reflected the dim interior. In the reflection, there was a figure standing just beyond the glass, its outline blurry, as if made of static. I stared, heart hammering, but when I looked directly, there was only empty night. A sudden, high-pitched screech shattered the silence. The doors of the station slammed shut on their own, the bolts locking with a metallic clang. The neon flickered, then went out, plunging the pumps into darkness. My phone screen glowed weakly, a useless beacon in the black. I heard the pump whirring, not from the fuel line, but from somewhere underneath the concrete. A low, guttural hum rose, growing louder, like an engine revving in reverse. Then a voice, soft as a sigh, whispered in my ear, "You're finally home." I bolted for the back door, fumbling with the lock. The metal gave way, but the night outside was no longer a highway. It was a void of endless black, punctuated by the faint outline of the pumps, now shining with an eerie, greenish glow. The strange customers were no longer people. They were silhouettes of gas-filled specters, their forms shifting like vapor. I ran, the cold wind biting my skin, hearing the pumps chanting in chorus, "Fill her up, fill her up." My feet pounded the asphalt, but the road stretched forever, a loop that led back to the same neon sign, still sputtering, still waiting. I'm still here, because the station never lets go of its night shift. The lights flicker on at 12 a.m. every night, and I hear the distant hum of the pumps, a reminder that I am now the one watching, forever behind the counter, forever filling the void. Story 2. I'm supposed to be the only one on duty when the sun dies. The neon sign sputters a tired, "Open," into the black. A small beacon for the few souls who think a midnight refill is worth the risk. I lean against the counter, coffee steaming in a chipped mug. listening to the hum of the pumps and the faint whine of the refrigerator that never quite gets cold enough. It's quiet. Far too quiet. The highway is a black ribbon, punctuated only by the occasional glimpse of taillights fading into the distance. I've gotten used to the way the darkness feels like a curtain, and how the night shift makes you feel like a lone lighthouse keeper watching over a world that doesn't care. Around 2 a.m., the first car rolls in, headlights cutting a silver blade through the fog. A man steps out, his face hidden in the shadow of a baseball cap. He doesn't speak. He just slides a $10 bill across the counter, the paper crinkling like dry leaves. The cash register flashes $0 and then glitches, the numbers flickering before settling on a negative amount. "Make that $3.19, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. He nods, reaches into his jacket, and pulls out an old, tarnished key. He drops it into the slot, and the pump clicks to life. He watches the meter spin, a slow, steady climb, as if each increment were a heartbeat. When the pump finally clicks off, he turns to leave, but the car's doors won't open. He lifts his hand, palm flat against the glass, and the doors grind inward as if something on the other side is pulling them shut. He looks at me, and I see nothing. No eyes, no nose, just a smooth, featureless mask of skin. For a heartbeat, I think I'm seeing his reflection in the empty windshield, a face that should be human but isn't. He turns back to the pump and in a voice that sounds like wind through a graveyard asks, "Did you get it?" I swallow. "Your gas?" He smiles, a thin line that doesn't reach any eyes. "The same as always." He walks out, his steps echoing on the concrete, and the car finally obeys, doors flinging open as if relieved. I watch it drive away, its taillights flickering like dying fireflies, until it disappears into the night. The bell over the door jingles, but no one is there. The next customer arrives at 3. A little girl, no older than 6, clutching a worn teddy bear. She sits on the bench, her eyes fixed on the wall of old advertisements. When I ask her if she wants a snack, she shakes her head. Are you staying?" she whispers. "My shift ends at 6, I answer, trying not to sound nervous. She smiles, and in that smile I see a flicker, something caught in her eyes. "You can't leave," she says, voice trembling. "You're part of this place now." I glance at the CCTV monitors mounted above the counter. The screens, which should be blank, show a grainy feed of the empty parking lot. In the corner of each screen, a figure stands just beyond the pump, tall, thin, its silhouette flickering like a broken TV signal. It watches, unblinking. A cold breath brushes the back of my neck. I spin, but the station is empty. The neon sign buzzes louder, casting a harsh strobe over the aisles. My coffee goes cold in my hands, the mug cracking as if struck. I'm not alone. The night has been waiting, and now it's willing to keep me. The bell over the door jingles again. This time, the sound is a low, guttural chuckle that reverberates through the concrete walls. I stare at the pumps, at the empty darkness, and realize the only thing worse than being watched is being the one you're supposed to watch. The shift isn't over. It never ends.